Hello, my name is Emily. I'm one of the storytellers here at Unlicensed Oral Arts. And as I'm a storyteller, it's only right that I tell you a story. Now, this is an old story and it starts long, long ago, back in the time of the Fianna. There was once a man called Dara Dohiel. Dara had raised up a mighty army and he was preparing to make war on Munster, the kingdom in the south of Ireland. But when he and his army arrived, they found the Fianna waiting for them. A great battle was fought upon the plains of Munster, and Dara was slain, killed by the mighty Fionn McCool himself. But this isn't a story about Dara. This is a story about his daughter, Mish. Mish was an only child. Her mother had died, and her father was her only living relative, her only kinsman, her only family. When the battle was fought, she listened to the sounds, the clash of steel on steel, the cries of the wounded and the dying. And when it all fell silent, and the only sound was the cawing of crows, she went out onto the plain of slaughter. She searched among the waste of wasted lives, looking for her father, and she found him. Dara, he had taken many grievous wounds, but still he clung on to life. Mish, she gathered her father, holding him in her arms like a child. She wept over him, even trying to lick at his wounds in a desperate attempt to close them. But it was to no avail, because in his daughter's arms, Dara breathed his last. When she knew her father was dead, Mish threw back her head and let out a howl. A terrible sound, a keening of grief and of pain. A madness fell upon her, a madness of grief. She ran from that place of death, still smeared in her father's blood. She ran into the mountains, and in the mountains, in the wildness, Mish began to change. Her fingernails began to grow long and sharp. Her teeth, which had always been covered by soft smiles, they were now bared to any who might come too close. Her hair grew long and ragged. It covered her whole body. And the people began to call that place Slieve Mish, the mountain of Mish, the mountain of the wild woman. The people nearby, they could hear her howling. They never went close, because those who did go close, those who came near Mish, well, very few of them came back. For nearly 300 years, Mish roamed that mountain. The people dug a trench around it, marking out her territory, warning all who might come near, do not cross over into the land of the wild woman. Do not venture onto the mountain of Mish. But there was a harper, a musician from Kerry. They had grown up being told these stories of the wild woman. They had heard her howling. But in her howling, they had heard the keening, the sad music, the sound of a grief unending. And so one day they picked up their harp, packed some food and wrapped it in a blanket, and went to Slieve Mish. They crossed over that trench that marked the land of the wild woman. They crossed into the wildness, and there they found a place to lay down their blanket, build a fire, and there the harpists began to play. They played as night softly gathered. They played as they heard Mish approaching. Mish was there. She listened to the music, staying just outside the circle of firelight. When the harpists had finished their song, they put down their harp and undid the clasp of their cloak, baring their soft, vulnerable throat. They then picked up their harp again and began to play. Mish moved a little bit closer. When this song was ended, the harper took off their shoes, and Mish again moved a little bit closer, intrigued by soft music and soft flesh. And so it continued. After each song, the harpist would remove another garment, and Mish would come a little closer. On and on this went until the harpist sat there completely naked. Mish by their side. Mish nuzzled against them, against their flesh, drinking in the scent of them, tasting but not tearing. The harper, they ran their fingers through her hair, gently unknotting the mats and tangles of her fur. Mish, she held her hands out to the harper, that they might trim her sharp nails, that she might touch gently. The two remained together till the sun rose. When the sun rose, the harper took water and heated it, and the two began to wash. And as Mish washed, she shed much of her fur and much of her madness. The grief, it was still there in her heart, but it was now a scar rather than a gaping wound. Soft music, soft flesh, soft kindness had helped her heal. Hand in hand, Mish of the mountain and the wild woman, Mish left with the harper. And it is said that they were happy. I hope you enjoyed that story. There will be more stuff coming up here at Unlicensed Oral Arts. We do a live stream storytelling session on the last Thursday of every month, and that's with me, Sinead, Stephen, Nisha. I'm gesturing as if they're here. We also will be uploading videos telling stories, talking about stories. So if you think that might be interesting, maybe consider pressing the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, press the like button.